All right, for this problem, we have to multiply 15 and 4/10 by 5 and 3/10. Now, before even multiplying, we should understand that our answer should be about 75. And that is because if we multiply the whole numbers together, 15 and 5, that gives us 75. And we're multiplying a little bit more than that, so our answer should be a little bit bigger than 75. So first we take 3 times 4, which is 12, and we carry the 1. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16, and we carry the 1 once again. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Now we put a 0 underneath this place value just to signify that we have completed multiplying that place value. Now we multiply 5 times 4, which is 20, and we carry a 2. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 more is 27, so we put a 7 and carry the 2. And 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 more is 7. And now we add our digits together, which we have 2, 6, 11, and 8. Now, one thing we have to be careful of is not to put our decimal right here. A lot of students think that you line up the decimal and then drop it straight down. That would be true if we were adding or subtracting. But when multiplying, what we do is we count all of the digits after all decimals in the problem, and we have a total of 2 place values after our 2 decimals. So the same thing must be true in our answer, so our decimal must go here. So we also have 2 digits after our decimal. So the answer is 81 and 62 hundredths. All right, let's go ahead and do another example. All right, this problem is asking us what the decimal equivalent of 29ths is. So what we have to do is take this fraction and convert it to a decimal. And to convert any fraction into a decimal, all we have to do is take the numerator and divide it by its denominator. So we know that 9 can be divided into 22 times, and 2 groups of 9 is 18. And when taking that 18 away from the 20, that leaves us with 2. Now what we do, since we don't have any digits to drop down, is we add a decimal after 20. We write a decimal directly above that and put a 0 in the tens place. And we take that 0 in the tens place, we drop it down and continue our division. Now we're dividing 9 into 20, although it's technically 2.0. We're going to pretend it is 20 for convenience sake. So 9 goes into 20 twice. That is 18. And once again, we get a 2. So we add another 0. And we bring that down and we get 20 again. And 9 goes into 20 twice. So we can see that this 2 is going to continually repeat. This is a non-terminating decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 2 point. And then we just write a 2 and a line over it to signify that that is the number that is going to repeat over and over again. So the answer is 2 point repeating 2. All right, let's go to the next problem. All right, so we have a mixed number being divided by another mixed number. So the first thing that we have to do is rename each one of these as an improper fraction. Now, whenever renaming fractions, the denominators are not going to change. So I'm just going to rewrite these 5s as 5s. Now, to get our numerator, we have to multiply our denominator by the whole number. And then we take that product and add the numerator to that. So for this fraction, we do 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 1 more is 16. And right here we do 5 times 1, which is 5, and 5 plus 3 more is 8. So we have to divide 16/5 by 8/5. Now we should notice that in this problem, our denominators are the same. And whenever you're dividing fractions with the same denominators, really all you have to do is divide the numerators together. We could just do 16 divided by 8, which is equal to 2. But we have to be careful because most times when you encounter fraction division, your denominators are not going to be the same. The standard way that most people teach this is to take the first fraction, keep it, take your division sign and change it to multiplication, and flip the second fraction or write the reciprocal of that fraction. All right, now notice that these 5s end up canceling out. We can just do this really quick, which gives us 16 on the top and 8 on the bottom. And 16 divided by 8 is equal to 2. All right, let's go ahead and do the next problem. Okay, we have 4 integer problems here that look very similar, but each one of them is going to give us a different answer. So let's take this first example. We have 8 minus -9. Now, whenever you are subtracting a negative or see 2 consecutive negatives, what you have to do is make both of those signs positive. So really we're dealing with 8 plus 9, which is equal to 17. All right, now here we're adding -8 to -9. And whenever you are combining two negatives, your answer is going to stay negative. And you just add those together. So altogether we have -17. So think if you were on a number line and you started at 0 and you went 8 below. And from that position, you drop down 9 more from this position. You would be at -17 on the number line. Now with this example, notice that we have another example like the first one where we have two consecutive negatives. And when we see this, we have to turn those two signs into positives. So really what we have here is a +9 and a -8. And when you're combining something with a positive and a negative, you have to subtract the absolute values of those numbers. So if we take 9 minus 8, that would give us 1. And because we have more positives, our answer is going to be positive. So the answer here is really just 1. Or another way we could have considered this problem is to take 9 and just subtract 8 from that, which is also 1. Now with this example, we're starting with +8 and we're combining that to -9. Now these signs are opposite, so we have to subtract their absolute values. So we take 9 minus 8, which is 1. But in this case, we have one more negative than we have positives. Therefore, our answer is -1. All right, let's go ahead and solve the last problem. All right, in this problem, we are adding -6.5 to -12.75. Now, one strategy that a lot of people like to use is they like to rename both of these mixed numbers into an improper fraction. Now, you have to do that when multiplying and dividing, but when adding or subtracting, you actually don't have to. We can actually leave these as mixed numbers. It's just kind of a preference. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deal with the fractional portion of these mixed numbers first. So I'm going to start by writing a common denominator. Remember, you cannot add or subtract until you obtain a common denominator. And the lowest common denominator would be 4. So because we doubled this 2 to make 4, we're going to double the 1 to make 2. In other words, 2 out of 4 is still equivalent to 1/2. And this denominator did not change, so we're not going to change this numerator. That is going to remain a 3. Now remember, we are adding these values together because they are both negative. So what we're going to do is add these numerators. We're going to take 2 plus 3, which is 5. And the denominator stays the same, so that gives us 5/4. Now, if we were to rename 5/4, that would be equal to 1 1/4. Now, that is because, if you think about it, 4 out of 4 would be 1 whole, and 5/4 is just 1 more quarter than 4/4. So when you combine 4/4 and 1/4, that's just 1 whole and 1/4. Now we're going to take this 1 and add it to the 6 and the 12. Now 6 plus 12 is 18, so we just take 18 and add it to that 1, and that would give us 19. And then we just take this 1/4 and slide it over. Now remember, we added two negative values together, so our answer has to remain negative. So the answer is -19 and 1/4. Now another way that you could have considered this problem is, if you're more comfortable with decimals, is to take 6.5 and just write that as a decimal, 6.5. And then we can take 12 3/4 and write that as a decimal as well, which would be 12.75. And because we are adding, we have to make sure that our decimal point is lined up, so our place values are lined up properly, like tenths to tenths, ones to ones, and so forth. So we're going to take this blank space here and just put a 0 there. We're going to drop our decimal down, and we're going to add our columns together. This is 5, 12, carry the 1. This is 9, and this is 1. And when you are adding two negatives, the answer is going to remain negative. So we have -19.25, and as a mixed number, that would be -19 and 1/4, because 25/100 when reduced is equal to 1/4.